So good morning, everyone. Looks like we have a decent audience. At about 9:45 in the morning when this was scheduled, I saw two people and I was wondering who I'm going to be talking to. So great to see that we've got quite a few people. Let's start the day. Yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about omnichannel excellence. Why? Because in India, as if you have been following retail and following the news, you see that obviously online has picked up hugely. There has not been a reduction in offline business as well. So online and offline are both picking up at a crazy pace, right? And research agencies or whatever companies like Deloitte, McKinsey, BCG, etc., have all been talking about India's omni-channel market growing at a CAGR of like more than 10% every year for the last so many years. And we've got a new segment that's also come in, which is D2C, right? So D2C has been growing at a CAGR of maybe 40%, I think, over the last maybe 2-3 years. So this trend is huge. D2C has started online and they're now getting offline. A lot of the small startup retailers are also going online as well. So omni-channel is going to just explode. Even today it is probably still in a very early stage, going to explode. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the trends that are happening in the market, how are we reacting to them, right? And how do we set ourselves up for omni-channel execution? Yeah, what are those building blocks I'll be talking about? So if I just look at different aspects, I try to analyze what are the kind of big trends that are happening across different aspects of the whole retail spectrum. Yeah. If you look at customer, many ordering channels. So we've said physical stores and we've said, online, myown.com. But marketplaces have come up. Social media, a lot of e-commerce happening on social media. WhatsApp as well. So huge amount of sales channels that are opening up to several retailers, small and big, small and large, and everyone's taking advantage of it to get themselves out there. Very important. Customers have become very promiscuous. So where loyalty earlier was a very strong kind of anchor for a lot of retail guys to hold on to their customers, with so many sales channels, so much retail happening, kind of availability of products at various types of products at different prices, customers have started to get more promiscuous, right? They move around, they're ready to explore different options. I have been victim to something like that. I'm particularly very specific about the brands I use, but over the last maybe 3-4 years, I myself have casually explored some very small unknown brands and realized that they are fantastic, in terms of fit and comfort and all of that. So I'm using myself as an example of person who's changing from brands to anything unbranded, which is just great and fit and gives me the ease to use. Yeah, and it's at a great price, of course. So customers have become very promiscuous. Trend spotting is a new thing that's happening in social media, where celebrity, and it's very specific to India, but not only India, but maybe some parts of Asia, maybe more. Celebrities, right? They are obviously revered by a lot of very large audiences. And when a celebrity wears a certain dress or a certain outfit, people spot it on social and it picks up as a trend. What are retailers then, what do they have to do? They have to respond. If somebody wants this red dress, then, and the trend is building up, then how do I get it out really fast, right? So trend spotting is becoming a very important thing. And returns and fakes has been a trend for a while, continues on, right? So I think apparel, taking apparel as an example, returns are like have been between 25 and 30% of online returns have been a consistent number, and that number is not going down anywhere. A lot of retailers trying different things. So that's on the customer side. If I look at the retail side, D2C I talked about, they've been growing significantly, growing at a very fast pace. Omnichannel I just talked about, right? Online, offline happening, so omnichannel is becoming an important method to fulfill. And personalization, so with a lot of data, AI, etc., personalization becoming a very important aspect. Yeah. If I look at it on the supplier side, there have been major geopolitical disruptions in the last 5 years, starting with COVID. After that, we had the Russia-Ukraine war. You've had Bangladesh. You've got now a lot of cyber security related frauds that are happening. So huge amount of disruptions that are affecting the markets, right? Affecting supply. And retailers are the first people to get affected the moment supply gets disrupted, of course. Russia-Ukraine war was about food, some parts of food grains and all of that stuff. Bangladesh was textiles, so it majorly impacted the textile market for a short duration of time. I think the recovery has been fairly quick, but it was a disruption nonetheless, right? Which is making suppliers have to reevaluate a few things, and we'll talk about it in the next few slides. Growing pains to scale, so small suppliers coming into the market, how do they now scale up when they are providing, markets booming, lot of customers, lot of kind of revenue building up, and hence how do they support this growth. Performance on time in full, in India we know that there is not a consistency in delivery of delivering on time and in full, so that's one of the challenges suppliers face. Logistics, on the logistics front, I think we don't have to talk much about it because we know quick commerce has picked up significantly. A lot of hyper-local guys have come in, so Zepto, Dunzo, Swiggy, all of these chaps. So big growth in hyper-local. And I talked about quick commerce. And naturally, delivery partner performance. Delivery partner performance in India has been very questionable. A lot of them have certain coverage of certain PIN codes, etc. But then very randomly, based on my experience, they switch off certain PIN codes during a certain period of time without adequate notice. And hence, your systems have to be able to suddenly handle that, oh, okay, this delivery partner is not there today, or this period of time in these PIN codes, so how do I quickly switch to someone else and maintain your customer promise? So that's important. Finally, on the sustainability front, it is still in early stage, gaining momentum, but it's getting more front of mind, I would say. It's not gaining momentum, it's getting front of mind. ESG goals, commitments by a lot of retailers to ESG goals. A lot of us are now conscious about carbon emissions, using of water, all of those things, e-waste. So ESG goals for a retailer has become very important. And product traceability and authenticity is becoming not that big an issue yet in India as it is maybe in some of the Western countries. But essentially, it's about how do you trace food, for example, food or beauty products or any things that are relevant in that area. How do you ensure that they are sourced the right way and you're actually applying something on your skin or you're ingesting something that is authentic? Okay, that's what's also starting to build up. It will take a little while to pick up steam. So with these trends, what's happening? Yeah, what's really resulting in this is supply chains are having to get redefined, okay? And of course, rapid organization of omni-channel fulfillment. So how are retailers responding to all of this, yeah? Supply chain, yeah? Earlier supply chains were focused on, dollars, efficiency and accuracy. That was the single kind of focus of all supply chains. They never really thought beyond money, efficiency and accuracy of data. With all of this stuff happening that I just talked about, the various trends, what's happening now, the need for agility and speed, very important, has just gained momentum hugely. The need for resilience, so having a supply chain being resilient, meaning today because of some disruption, somebody is not able to provide, how do I switch to some other supplier? I should be able to adjust my inventory and be able to source from a different location as quickly as possible. And correspondingly have systems in place that can adjust. So physically you can do it, but even have systems that can adjust. Resiliency, I talked about sustainability, coming front and center. It's going to take maybe another couple of years to really, for people to actually make that a decision-making factor. Probably earliest, I would say, is 2-3 years from now. Right now, economics over environment tends to be the mantra, not something I'm propounding, but that tends to be the mantra at this point, okay? And cybersecurity, we know that with so many gadgets and devices, IoT, various things kind of coming in, cybersecurity fraud is becoming a big issue, right? And I'm sure a lot of you must have experienced, maybe on a weekly basis, things that we call as scams, phishing scams, where you get an SMS or you get an email or you get a WhatsApp message saying that, your account has been deactivated or something, or we have delivered this product to you, please click here and do something about it. So I'm sure, do you guys get those kinds of messages? Yeah, I think everyone's getting it. So cybersecurity scams have become a really big issue, very sophisticated phishing happening right now. So supply chains, as I said, have got redefined. Looking at the other aspect, which is omnichannel fulfillment. So what are the building blocks with the supply chain being defined? What are the building blocks for building an excellent kind of response, or having a good process or a good framework to execute in an omnichannel manner, right? There are a few building blocks: common data platform, and I'll just talk about these 4 or 5 building blocks right now. Common data platform, integrated planning and execution, right? Make sure that your planning systems and executing systems are talking to each other. Fulfillment nodes, you're fulfilling from somewhere. How do you digitalize those nodes, so that they are able to operate efficiently? And your logistics platforms, so you are going to actually deliver something to somebody in a certain period of time. How do you make sure that is efficient? And sustainable practices. Doing all of this sustainably, I would say, is the key point. So common data platform for omnichannel execution, really, I would say like 3 key aspects, have a single customer view. So your customer who's shopping online and offline should be visible as one customer across all of your systems. If you don't have the same customer being viewed in the same manner, then you are not going to be able to give them a holistic proposition. So this customer may be shopping for something online and something offline, and they could be different categories, but you're not able to now view the customer overall, holistically, and you are just going to service them based on the channel that they shop. So being able to view your customer, very important aspect, and then be able to figure out how to communicate and engage with them. Reliable inventory view across all channels. I think people have talked about this adequately, that we should have one single view of an inventory item when something has to be sourced for an offline as well as an online business. To keep your inventory levels efficient, you should be able to identify that one product as that one shirt, for example, that is lying somewhere in your system should reflect as one shirt lying, and it should be available to both the online as well as offline channels. That's the point I'm trying to make, that it should be available to both channels. If it's not available to both channels, you will have some level of wastage in an online and some level of wastage in an offline channel. Your wastage and your leakage gets a lot worse. So it's important to have a common inventory database. Single item master, this is a very important thing, because any retailer who is selling in certain stores across the country uh, may not have the same set of items listed everywhere. You may not have, for example, ethnic wear of a certain type may work very well in North, may not work that well in the South. Or you'll have a different type of ethnic wear in the South, which may not work well in the North, right? So making sure that your items are listed correctly and making sure that they are listed correctly online and offline. That's important from a customer proposition and a customer expectation point of view. So putting it, having a single item master that lists the same product and communicating it well to the customer. That's an important aspect as well. And finally, you need to have, under all of this, you need to have the right technology in place. So we can do all of this inventory stuff, inventory, customer, all of this, but it has to be enabled only by a good, well thought out technology strategy, right? Which is have a common data platform. First, and this what I'm talking about is essentially maybe structured data, but since you're also going to be operating online, there is a lot of unstructured data that comes in as well. For example, through social media channels, through your streaming on a website, all of that, not streaming, I'm saying, click streams from your website, that data comes into this. Analyze that data and be able to then make sense out of it. Okay? So you need a good set of technology tools in place and make sure that they are well defined because as APIs, because all of your external systems that are talking to this common platform are going to be able to access the same piece of data. If you have a set of APIs that everybody uses, then it makes it more consistent in how you access it. And a simple example would be like Google Maps, okay? So any of the online retailers today, or even offline, right? Let's say there's a store, physical store retail format, and you have a Find My Store kind of an option on your website. Find My Store would eventually link up to a Google API which says, you know, Google Maps, here's your directions. Online accesses it the same way, we'll call the same Google API, which will hence give you the same sort of, experience in terms of how do you fulfill that product. So use the same set of APIs. Don't have different conversations with the same database. Coming to the second building block, integrated planning and execution. So a lot of people want to think about AI, and we talked about it yesterday in the evening on a panel which I was, on the AI Unleashed panel, where we talk about a lot of people looking at AI to solve a problem, okay? Looking at AI first and then saying, okay, what problems, how can I use AI? The question is not about how to use AI, it's about what's my business problem, and then say, okay, do I need to use AI at all or not? And may not, you don't have to use it everywhere, right? So my message very clearly here is get your basics right first, okay? Don't focus on all the fancy technologies at this point. Get your basics right, get your inventory across all channels in place, make sure your replenishment and execution systems are talking to each other. So if you are selling a certain product in a store, it is in a store or online, it is going back into a replenishment cycle into your warehouse. So if I sold one shirt online, one shirt offline, two shirts are going to be replenished essentially, right? So you've got to make sure that the same inventory is being spoken, right? And you have a proper integrated loop between your planning and execution systems. And finally, support it with endpoint productivity, meaning that in a warehouse or in a store, if you're fulfilling from your store, you have handhelds, you might have handhelds, you have a packing station. Make sure that you are providing the right level of automation in there so that it's efficient for people to work. Essentially, that's how you would make your whole operation a lot more efficient. Yeah, getting inventory right, so you have accuracy across all of it, getting your replenishment in place, and getting your endpoint productivity in place. And then once you're done with that, then you can look at things like AI and ML on top of this, once you've got your basics in place. And there, merchandise planning is now getting into a little more, advanced forms. So people who have been doing merchandise planning through large systems today can leverage even further things like cognitive merchandise, which is taking data from external trends, etc., and feeding it into your merchandise planning. But that's a next stage of planning that can get done. If you're a large size retailer, then you would probably have a store, you might have a regional warehouse, you might have a national warehouse, and then you have the supplier. So make sure that you have multi-echelon, multi-level planning in place if you're a large size retailer. And intelligent pricing and markdown planning, this is something which everyone needs, whether you're a large or a small size. You need some system to be able to intelligently tell you based on sales and based on experience, what's the best way, at what stage do I mark down, how much do I mark down my product. That's an area where AI and ML can be used, and you can actually get into it at an early stage. That's not something you've got to wait for everything, but that's something someone can leverage even at an early stage. And in fact, that's probably a great use case for AI to do at an early stage. Talking about the other block, fulfillment node, digitization. There is a methodical way to automate your fulfillment nodes, right? So if you are fulfilling from a warehouse or you are fulfilling from a store, your first stage is to start simple, start small. Just make sure that your localized activities are automated and you have systems in place. And I've given an example of assisted picking, stuff like that. Once you get onto larger scale, then you have conveyors, etc., in your warehouse, yeah, for a large scale retailer. And then you have a whole different level of automation, which is goods to person, etc., etc. So I think essentially the message very clearly here is follow a stepped approach, stay at a level 1 maturity wherever you are, and get the basics in place, get your basic activities automated, and then move on to larger scale as you grow. On the IoT front, we know that there is RFID has been now kind of proliferating or getting expanded into a lot of retailers have adopted RFID. So RFID as an example is great to start using. It's a form of IoT that we talk about. So RFID is a great example to start considering because you get a good return on investment fairly quickly if you have implemented the process well. But RFID definitely. And then there are other mechanisms. Again, when you are a larger scale operation, how do you detect choke points and stuff like that in your warehouse? How do you understand whether my goods are moving at a fast pace or not? But that's for a larger scale retail. Yeah? And if you are a food or a beauty, typically products that require a certain environmental condition like temperature control, humidity control, etc., that's where you can use IoT and basically ensure that your node from where you are fulfilling. And I'm sure even in retail stores today, if you are selling beauty products, they are maintained at a certain level of humidity and temperature. Today they are just simply maintained in a refrigerator or those kinds of things. But with the help of IoT, you are able to understand how this changes through the whole transition, through the whole fulfillment cycle. So as it is moving from one place to another, you are able to track temperatures and you are able to know at what temperature this product fails or what's been the quality of this product when it reached from warehouse to store, for example. So essentially use IoT sensors for those kinds of things, wherever it's relevant. On the logistics platform front, get your basics again. The foundational things that one needs to do is to have a logistics platform for all your delivery segments. Why I'm talking about this, okay, is that a lot of retailers, so if you look at the journey, there is of a product, it is from supplier to a warehouse, to a store, to the customer, okay? That's 4 legs There's three legs, okay? Warehouse to supplier to warehouse, warehouse to store, store to customer, three legs. A lot of businesses tend to realize, okay, let me automate the last mile. So they will do the last mile, and they'll get some. There are a lot of platforms out there that help you to automate your last mile. So you say, okay, great, I got that done. From your warehouse to your store, how do you automate, right? So somebody will come and make a sales pitch to them, and they'll say, okay, I need this because now my business is growing, warehouse to stores, I'm increasing number of stores, I need to automate. So you will get on to something else. Supplier to a warehouse, you will have some other platform, or even if you are doing an import, you have certain platforms which allow you or enable import. What tends to happen in this is you end up having multiple platforms serving your whole cycle. And when you have multiple platforms, you have challenges of integration, okay, number one. Number two, you have individual suppliers maybe not being able to deliver certain, for the certain leg that you are dealing with. The best way to deal with this is to have common platforms. Have one single platform where you are able to track your product from start to finish. Ideally, last mile could be a very unique, last mile is a very sort of unique leg. You can keep a separate last mile, but for the rest of it, keep a single platform. So ideally, keep your things simple and have a common logistics platform. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. And then you can use AI. So these platforms use AI and ML to automate and to give you the best route possible. So you can actually leverage platforms which are already providing those kinds of capabilities. Okay. And finally, sustainable practices. Yes, using sensors is something that everyone's got to start thinking about in your business for the specific type of product you are using. And it doesn't have to be sensors across everything, but RFID could be a good starting point. And then you can look at other specific things. For example, I said, maintaining a certain temperature control in a certain location, maintaining certain humidity control. These are important things which can be done, and they're probably being done today to a large extent, but be able to look at that data over time and be able to analyze and see what you get out of it, if there's any actions one needs to take. So use IoT. Blockchain today is not a technology that's commonly being used. It's also very expensive to implement. But maybe in the next year to 2 years, be able to track traceability of a product from start to finish. And most importantly, at the end of the day, I think it is about increasing the conversation for better sustainable practices. You can do whatever you want to do best to reduce your emissions, control paper, printing, control your water usage, etc. But retailers have a responsibility to start getting consumers talking about sustainable products and being able to nudge them towards that. I think that is important. Otherwise, sustainability will not even pick up steam. So that's the final building block. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah. I think we've got a question from Ajay Agarwal.
Vikram, as a retailer, I just wanted to know two things from you. One is you mentioned about single item master, especially in Omnichannel. Why PIM is not popular in India? Use of PIM, number one. Number two is, what are retailers doing sincerely about reducing their wastage? I mean, they don't seem to be serious in India at least.
So PIM has not been used. I think it's more about awareness, and it's about somebody putting their mind to it. Putting it up as a specific initiative, defining it well. So in my view, I don't think people are thinking it through well enough. Yeah, they are jumping into, I need to list. Basically, it's about speed. They're looking to deliver things fast. So PIM is probably something not been thought through, but it is a fundamental, very critical thing that one needs to do, definitely. And as you are growing, it becomes even more important. That's one. The second question was about why retailers are not doing sustainability. Well, I think reducing wastage. I think a lot of retailers are doing work in that space. For example, digital invoice printing is a very simple thing, okay, that people are doing. In warehouses, rainwater harvesting, a few retailers are doing, very small. Yes, I think it's essentially, I talked about economics or comfort, speed over convenience over convenience over sustainability. We're talking about inventory wastage. Okay, so there are better planning systems. Very, very big question. I think it just comes down to a commitment that's needed by retailers to say, I'm going to reduce my plan. I'm going to improve my planning. I will, in fact, talk about one thing. A lot of fashion apparel has switched from two-season based execution to multi-season based. So several retailers have moved from 2 to 12, for example. They do every month. Why has that happened, and what result has that resulted in? Is that I'm able to order in smaller chunks a lot faster. So it is top of mind of all retailers that I want to reduce my inventory, because it's a big hit straight on my bottom line, right? So I think there has been clear action taken on that front to reduce inventory wastage, but not for any other purposes except improve your bottom line. And there is action taken from the fashion space for sure.
To build upon the point on PIM/item master, while you talked about the backward integration into a supply chain, what about the forward integration of a CDP platform for customer engagement of those products across different channels in the channel world? How do you take individual product information, imagery, and publish it across multiple channels? Do you use CDP platforms for doing things like that? And any comments on how do you approach that on the content side of things, of pushing that?
So I think this is a pretty long discussion, but CDP platforms for retailers who don't have the monetary capability to have their own CDP platforms, there are some that are available in the market. And yes, definitely if you have well thought out processes on how you're going to engage with your customer, first thing is you got to be clear about how you're going to engage with your customer. It's not a reactive thing that one needs to do and say, get a CDP platform. One needs to have a well thought through campaign management and engagement strategy. Then there's a decent investment in a CDP platform to be able to do that. But I'd say, you can do simple things like not look at a CDP platform and internally be able to have an informal sort of single data warehouse where all customer data from all systems is fed into your own data warehouse. Would be step one. And then you can look at more, advanced kind of CDP platforms. There are, but then they are super expensive. Yeah. Okay.